The Bolts of Pain podcast, an English take on a colonial endeavour. Men in pads and tight clothing and lots of adverts. You'll find none of that nonsense here. Just resentment, bitterness, and a permanent sense of what could have been if only we had given the chaps cricket.
So there we go, week 3 of the 2025 NFL season is in the bag. Another great week. Not perhaps as enthralling as week 2, which was really special, but still some great games in there. The Baltimore Ravens versus the Detroit Lions stands out, I think. The great game was the LA Rams versus the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles staging a really impressive comeback. And Jalen Hurts, the guy just does not like losing. Always a great trait in a quarterback. Why was week 3 perhaps not as good as week 2? Well, there were quite a few blowouts in week 3. The Vikings stomped all over a Joe Burrow-less Bengals. The Bengals season looks very, very long and painful. There were some other blowouts. The Colts beating up on the awful Titans. Brian Callahan, he must be feeling the pressure. A Jaden Daniels-less Commanders walloping the Las Vagrants. Oh, how my heart bleeds. The Panthers keeping the Falcons to a goose egg, completely just blocking them out 30-0. And some other matchups that were just dull. Patriots, Steelers, right. Jaguars, Texans. Not great games of the sort of exciting franchises at this current stage in their developments. The Seahawks, 30-point favourites, winners over the hapless Saints. The 49ers scrambling by a pretty insipid Cardinals passing attack. I don't know what's up with Kyler Murray, but he's got no rapport at all with Marvin Harrison Jr. Yet again, Baker Mayfield doing his thing as the Buccaneers go 3-0. That was a good game. But of course, the great game of the week. Well, actually, before we get to that, Mike McDaniels. I was watching the Buffalo Bills Miami Dolphins game, and the Miami offense is just now dink and dunk. It used to be timing passes, not deep balls, because that's not Tagovailoa's game, but it was passing concepts, timing patterns, and then lots of yards after the catch. Well, now they don't even get the yards after the catch. It's all dink and dunk. And I think the Mike McDaniel must be under, like Brian Callahan, a lot of pressure, and like another coach who I'm going to mention at the end of this episode, who's coaching our next opponent. But how did the Los Angeles Chargers get on in week 3? Well, they won in a really good game, a close game. 3rd win against a division rival on the trot. So important to get these division wins in. And the Chargers beat the Broncos 23-20 with a game-winning field goal as time expired from Cameron Dicker. Really gutsy performance. The Denver defense is very, very good. They put a lot of pressure on Justin Herbert all through the game. I think he was hit 14 times or so. And Joe Alt had one of his least impressive games as a professional tackle, of course playing left tackle in the absence of Rashawn Slater. That's not really a denigration of Joe Alt. The Denver defense is very good and they put a lot of pressure on quarterbacks, and they're going to be a handful all season. Offensively, they weren't that strong, and the Chargers defense stepped up again and negated pretty much Bo Nix. There was a blown coverage touchdown pass, but apart from that, I think the Broncos had 9 first downs. SoFi Stadium looked pretty full. Yes, it was pretty full of a lot of Bronco fans, but by the end, as the Chargers mounted that comeback and Herbie took them down the pitch with that remarkable touchdown pass to Keenan Allen, the place was rocking, and it was rocking with people wearing the powder blue, and that's nice to see. And the Chargers were wearing their powder blue jerseys and the white leggings, jeggings, whatever you want to call them. Injury-wise, injuries are mounting up for all teams already in this season, as they seem to do every season. Nick Bosa is out for the season for the 49ers. I think Bosa is Italian for permanently injured. So we can't really complain. Najee Harris doesn't look in a good way. He could be out for a while, but I think this Amarin Hampton guy, he's been that close to springing some big runs. He can catch. Yes, he fumbles. He's got to get over that, but he can catch out of the backfield. I think he's okay at pass blocking from the bits I've seen. And as I say, he's going to break a big run off, and I think we just run through Amarin Hampton for the rest of the season. And the next game in The 2025 NFL season sees the Chargers travel to the swamps of East Rutherford to play the hapless New York Giants, who, aside from their outing at Dallas, just look lost offensively. And of all the coaches that are feeling pressure, I think Brian Daboll has got to be feeling the most. He seems like a nice guy. He's obviously a competent offensive coach. He polished a rough diamond in Josh Allen, and now Allen is one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL for the Buffalo Bills. Did a great job there and has come to New York. The trouble is not just his win-loss record, which ain't great. The trouble is that the quarterback whisperer, Brian Daboll, had Danny Dimes, had Daniel Jones as a project and couldn't do much with him and let him go, as we know. And Daniel Jones is now playing for the Indianapolis Colts. The problem for Brian Daboll is Daniel Jones, the quarterback he couldn't coach up, is now playing lights out for the Indianapolis Colts for another quarterback whisperer, Shane Steichen, who of course we all know from his stellar work with Justin Herbert in his, I think it was his rookie season. So that's why the pressure's on Daboll. They're not winning matches. The crowd is already restless at the stadium in East Rutherford, booing in their last game, which they lost. Russell Wilson has just fallen off a cliff in the last 3 or 4 years. Daboll's under immense pressure, and the quarterback he let go is winning games for the Colts, who are also undefeated this season, like our beloved Chargers, 3-0. And yes, the Colts situation is a little bit better. They've got a great running back. They've got a good offensive line, decent receivers. But, the Giants had, is it Malik Neighbors? I mean, they couldn't get anything done with him and Daniel Jones behind, albeit a pretty poor offensive line. And I think the Chargers should, if we believe the odds, they're 6.5-point favourites to go to East Rutherford and beat the hapless Giants, and all things being equal, that should happen. But who knows? Sport is a funny thing. That's why we love it, right? Because we think we know what's going on. And then it upsets us. And obvious wins become perplexing losses. And it can happen to any team. It can certainly happen to the Chargers in my time following them. That's happened more times than I care to think about. But all things being equal, they should go to East Rutherford, beat the New York Giants, and emerge out of there, hopefully with no more injuries, hopefully with a win to take them to 4-0. And let's just think how good that would feel. And the last time they started 4-0 was the last time, of course, they started 3-0, which was in 2002. Let's see if the Chargers are up for it. And let's see how Justin Herbert plays. He's having a really good season. East Rutherford is where Chargers seasons do go to die, though. Just bearing that in. Just throwing out some English pessimism there. 1983. Dan Fouts went there. Air Coryell, still on its prime. And I think it was Lawrence Taylor injured Dan Fouts' shoulder. Fouts missed a number of games. Ed Luther came in, and the Chargers had a losing season in 1983. The record was 6-10. Terrible defence didn't help as well, but Ed Luther was no Dan Fouts. And that was really the beginning of the end for Air Coryell. They put up incredible points for the next few seasons, but they just could not staunch the pass, and the defence from 81 through to 86 was almost historically bad, and they had to have Dan Fouts in every game to have a chance. And in 1983, Lawrence Taylor and the Giants put at the end of that season, and again in 1986, Dan and the boys went there in the second game of the season, having just whipped the Miami Dolphins 50-28. Don Shula calling Air Coryell the greatest defence the NFL's ever seen. The Chargers went into East Rutherford week 2, 1986. I think Fouts was picked off 5 times. They lost 21-7. This was the Giants with Carl Banks and Lawrence Taylor at their absolute prime, and they beat the crap out of Fouts. There's a famous photo of him with blood dripping down his face after he was hit yet again. So obviously don't wish that on Justin Herbert. He's a physical specimen. He can take it, I hope. He took it 14 times against the Broncos. We don't want that happening every week, because even a guy of his physical stature and escapability can't put up with that kind of beating game in, game out. So fingers crossed we get through it. Fingers crossed we come out of there with a win. If it's 3-0, that'll do me. I don't want a glamour fixture. I want the win against the Giants, and I want that to be done with as little injury as possible. Hope your NFL season's going well. My fantasy team lost. I'm now 0-3, despite the fact my team put up 138 points, which was the second highest score in my fantasy league, behind the guy who beat me, who got 162 points, and I still managed to lose. 138 points and I lost. Welcome to my world. Welcome to the world of being a Charger. Welcome to Bolts of Pain. Oh, please, lightning, strike me down.
The Bolts of Pain podcast is available in all good gentlemen's clubs. Ask upon entry. Discretion assured.